Hey everyone, as the new year starts, most of us immediately think about what we want to add, whether there's new goals, new projects, new resolutions, new commitments. But if I'm being honest, most doctors I know already have too much going on. Like we're busy at work, we're trying to be present at home, and we keep taking on more because it feels like the right thing to do. So if you're already feeling tired, behind, or stretched thin, and it's only the beginning of the year, it's January, this episode is for you. Today, I want to talk about how to get your time and energy back, not by doing more, but by reassessing what you're already carrying. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Passive Income MD podcast, where we talk about creating your ideal life through multiple streams of income. If you enjoy hearing about this stuff, make sure to hit subscribe. Now let's get on with the show. At the start of every year, there's this quiet pressure, I don't know if you feel this or not, to reset everything, to clean the slate and start new with, again, new habits, new goals, maybe a better version of ourselves. And I totally get it. January is supposed to be that clean slate. December ends. January is like the rebirth. But here's the thing I keep noticing, and this is both personally and in conversations with other doctors and physicians who are part of our community. Most doctors don't actually need to add more things to their plate. In fact, they already have way too much. We're busy at work. We're also trying to be good spouses and partners, good parents, friends, trying to stay active in our communities. And on top of that, many of us also take on extra roles at work that we're probably not compensated well for or compensated at all for because it just feels like the right thing to do because we're trying to help out or maybe step up into leadership, be dependable. And again, a lot of that starts from a good place. But over time, especially when it turns really administrative or the work seems actually invisible in terms of the benefits, this whole feeling of being helpful quietly turns into like an expectation and something we have to do and a burden. And then that's when time and energy really start to get sucked away, when they start to disappear. Now, one of the most common things I hear from doctors all the time is, I don't know if you feel like this, is, I don't know why I'm so tired. And you might hear that. And that's not just because, they're not lazy, definitely not unmotivated or ambitious. And it's not because necessarily they hate their jobs or anything like that. They're just carrying a lot on their plate. And this is important to really state. Feeling drained, it's not like a personal failure. It's usually a capacity issue. It's a system issue. And I will tell you, there is no version of life where we do everything well all at once indefinitely. No matter how hard we want to do that or try, it's not possible. Something always has to give. We often talk about financial freedom, but the real goal, it's time freedom. Most of us are drowning in invisible work, the admin, and the mental load that keeps us from the people we love. That's why we created the AI Bootcamp, not to turn you into a tech person, but to give you your life back. This is a live 5-week journey where we don't just teach you, we walk the path with you, from building your first repeatable workflows in week 1 to creating a custom AI assistant that sounds just like you by week 3. We aren't just giving you a system and leaving you to figure it out. We're there to hold your hand. Same-day implementation workshops and weekly office hours means you never get stuck. By week 5, you aren't just trying AI. You have a system that buys you back 5 to 10 hours every single week. Join us. Let's make the freedom shift together. Now, in a recent newsletter, I kind of shared about a similar concept where I talked about how my daughter adds things to her backpack all throughout the year and eventually gets heavier and heavier and heavier to the point where I can't lift it anymore. I have a really tough time lifting it into my car, and it doesn't happen suddenly. It just comes up little by little. Another good example of this is probably your garage. It doesn't become like unusable overnight. I think a lot of us have plans to actually use it as a real garage. When I moved into my house, it was a 2-car garage. We planned on parking 2 cars there. And then eventually we started putting something on one side of it, and there's some boxes and some bikes and things like that. And eventually it's no longer usable as a 2-car garage, now a 1-car garage. And then eventually you start putting other stuff in there. And sometimes you find yourself where you don't even have room for any car. And what's interesting is this thing happens over time. And I think that happens in our lives too, where we have good intentions for how we're going to use our time and energy. And then slowly things start filling it up. And it seems like it all makes sense. It's just one little thing here, one little thing there. And eventually you just don't have room for any of the other good things that you want to do in your life. And that's how time and energy disappear for a lot of us, a lot of doctors. Again, not all at once, little by little. It's not really a dramatic thing. You just lose usable space. And for many physicians, it often looks something like this. Maybe it's an extra role on a committee, something you raise your hand for. They said you're the only person who could possibly do it well. These administrative tasks that, again, never seem to go away. In fact, they get added on to. Maybe you started covering for someone else because you can, and that just became an expectation from then on. Your inbox or your email starts to blow up and creep and get even more full day by day. And again, none of these things are necessarily bad on their own, but over time, they fill the garage. And eventually, even though nothing just by itself feels crazy or outrageous, like everything just starts to feel heavy. And here's something that I think many of us don't realize is that just because you can carry something doesn't mean it's yours forever to carry. I mean, it's funny. I know even some physicians who are essentially working 2 full-time jobs. These are usually ER physicians who just end up picking more shifts up at a different hospital. And when you ask them how that all happened, they often say, I don't even know. It was never one big decision. They just had the opportunity to work somewhere else. Maybe the money seemed pretty good and they just added it and their whole schedule became consumed with all of this time. And little by little, they realized, I have no time for anything else. And then when you ask people like that, like, do you actually need to work that much? They often answer, I'm not sure. What I am sure of is that there's always a cost to this. I mean, at some point, the real question becomes like, what's the happy, sustainable place for you? And so most people, again, start the year thinking, what should I add? What else should I do? I would say a more helpful question for you might be, what have I been carrying that I don't need to anymore? And I want to be very clear about something. Again, this is not about quitting your job. It's not about blowing up your life. It's not about emptying everything and just starting fresh. Sometimes the most powerful step is just simply noticing how full it's gotten. I mean, even awareness or naming it or even thinking about it sometimes creates a little bit of relief. And here's the thing, when you do remove some things, you start to see what actually matters in your life. When you start saying no to some things, which is hard to do for a lot of us. But if you do, you get to say yes to other things. And you can always add things back later if you want, I promise. But when you do, it's because you're intentionally saying yes. So I want to leave you with a few questions to sit with this week, or maybe you can start thinking about it right now. What part of your week feels heaviest right now? Or what responsibility, which made sense once upon a time, hasn't been reassessed for so long, and you should start thinking about it now. If you clear just a little space, what would that give back to your life? Now, you don't need the answers to all of this right away. Just start to notice in your daily life, have those questions in the back of your mind, and then you'll start noticing. So getting back on track, especially when it comes to your time and energy, I believe it doesn't start with doing more. It starts with making space. Now, in the next couple of episodes, we're going to be talking about getting back on track or starting the year fresh or doing different things with your finances, how that grows. And I'm sure that's a topic we would all love to know more about. Also about relationships and how to make the most of your time at home. So stay tuned. Thank you for taking the time to listen in. I appreciate you so much. Have an amazing week, and let's talk again soon. Enjoy the show? Let me know by dropping a review in the podcast app you're listening to us in. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. Join thousands of physicians who are also on this journey to creating their ideal lives through multiple streams of income. Learn more at our website, passiveincomemd.com. Thanks again for allowing me to be a part of your journey. See you next time.